Hi friends, Ryan here with Ryan's Candles and Crafts, and welcome to the next chapter of Jojo's story. Last time, Jojo faced one of his oldest fears, crossing a swaying rope bridge over a deep gorge. It wasn't easy, but he made it, proving to himself that he could take another step forward. Now, the path ahead leads to a place few from Cafe Perch have ever dared to go, the Whispering Grove. Before we get into the next chapter, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell to get notified when we upload new episodes here on the channel. Don't forget to leave a like and leave a comment down below on what you think of the story. Let's go ahead and get started. Chapter 3: The Whispering Grove. The forest seemed to breathe around Jojo as he left the swaying rope bridge behind. His claws found the path again, a narrow, winding ribbon of dirt that threaded between mossy stones and the roots of old pines. The air cooled, shaded by branches knitted so tightly overhead that morning felt like evening. The golden bubble drifted just ahead, small and sure as a lantern in a long corridor, its light slipping over tree bark and gathering in soft pools where his feet would land next. He kept to those pools the way he once kept to the cobblestones of the market, comforted by their edges, wary of everything beyond. Somewhere behind him, the bridge sang a single rope-voiced sigh in the gorge wind, and then even that fell away, swallowed by leaves. He told himself he felt better now. He had crossed the bridge he'd feared since he was a chick. The proof was in his bones. They carried a weight that wasn't just fear anymore. But the forest carried its own kind of quiet pressure. Each step forward placed more trees between him and Cliffside Village, between him and the warm line of Miss Brindle's smile across the cafe counter, between him and Mr. Tallow's bread just out of the oven. He could almost taste the raisins, almost hear the clack of the clockmaker's little drawers opening and shutting. Home was a soundscape as much as a place, and the forest felt louder without the absence of it. The path narrowed, the bubble's glow skidded across a shelf of stone carpeted in velvet moss, then bounced lightly down the other side. Jojo followed and paused. The scent here shifted from wet bark to something lighter. Sap, crushed fern, a hint of distant water. Wind stirred the canopy, and the branches murmured. It was nothing more than leaves moving, he knew that. But the sound clung to words as easily as dew clung to needles. It slipped through the seams of his attention before he could brace against it.
Turn back.
He blinked and listened harder, but the sound was gone. Replaced by ordinary hush and rattles of a living forest, he took another step, and another, and found the ground softening beneath him, the soil damp with yesterday's rain. The bubble brightened, as though in answer to the deeper shade under the burrows.
Turn back,
came the suggestion again, no louder, no nearer, and yet undeniable. It might have been memory, the echo of his own thoughts from an hour ago. It might have been the wind finding an old channel in the pines and making a voice of it. But the words rode the air with a confidence his own thoughts never had. They slid neatly into the spaces his fear had already hollowed out and sat there with effortless authority. He focused on the bubble. He could make out its shape, even when his eyes adjusted to the dim light. He could feel the way its glow had changed the air around it. When he stood in that glow, he was warm. When he stepped out of it, he felt the pins of chill on his feathers. The path took a shallow bend and narrowed further, hemmed on one side by a thicket of young firs and on the other by a rank of ancient stones. Jojo turned sideways to pass. The bubble slid easily through the tightest place and waited, bobbing once. He exhaled, drew himself small, and squeezed after, his satchel brushing damp bark. The warmth against his side reminded him of what he carried, Sunrise Brew. sealed in a silver cup that didn't look like magic, but knew how to hold it. Miss Brindle once told him that the beans caught dawn the way a leaf caught rain, drew it in, and held it between the fibers. "You can see it," she said, "but you can feel it all the same. Like the sun when you close your eyes. That's what makes a morning brave." He had asked her then if the brew worked on the courier too. Miss Brindle had smiled in that small way of hers that meant yes, but she didn't want to spoil the lesson. "Sometimes," she'd said, "when it needs to." Now the forest murmured again. "You don't belong here." Jojo stopped, eyes wide. "Too small," the leaves whispered. "Too scared." A breeze lifted the edge of his feathered cheek and carried the words ahead of him down the narrow way. The bubble didn't move. It hung where the path leveled, warming the damp air around it. He closed his eyes and let the bubble's light paint the red of his eyelids. When he opened them, he picked out a splash of brighter green, that particular green that belonged to leaves turned translucent by backlight, and stepped toward it, because steadier color meant thinner shade, and thinner shade felt like relief. The grove gathered itself without warning. The trees drew back as if they had made a corridor for him and now opened their arms. He blinked into a clearing ringed with trunks so large he would have needed 5 friends to gather around one. In the center stood a single, older tree, older even than the rest. Its bark twisted into seams and ridges deep enough to fit his claws. Its roots rose and fell across the clearing in slow waves, vanishing and reaping where the earth had given up trying to hold them. The golden bubble drifted toward that tree and rested above a low shelf of bark like a waiting candle. Something flickered in the branches. At first, Jojo thought it was light catching on sap. But then he saw shapes. Small, teardrop-like pods hanging from thin stems, each lit faintly from within. The light was steady, a heartbeat that did not quite pulse. He took a careful step closer. He reached out and then hesitated, talon hovering an inch from one. He reminded himself to breathe. The pod nearest his claw brightened. A flash of light came across his eyes. He knew the scene before he understood it. It was himself on his first day as a brew courier, standing too stiff behind the counter with Miss Brindle while she taught him the fold that made the cup lid stay on just right. He had not known what to do with his wings. He blinked, and then moved sideways to another pod. This one held him again, older by weeks, evidently, carrying a cup across the square in rain that felt like threads. He had lifted the satchel flap to shield the lid, and despite that care he had spilled a mouthful at that last corner. He had stood by the alley with his cheeks hot and his throat tight, and thought about quitting. He watched himself think about it. He watched himself decide not to. A softness moved through him that wasn't pride. The pods didn't seem interested in making him feel better or worse. They were, if a grove could be so gentle, offering him inventory. Here's what you have been. He stepped to a third pod and then a fourth. The schoolyard bridge appeared, stubborn as a bruise. For a moment he expected the old ache to flare, that sharp hint of ridicule, the sense that even the planks had been watching him fail. But the memory lay quiet in the pod's light. The picture of a young chick carefully stepping back from something that felt wrong to his body and mind. The others laughed in the background, yes, but he looked through the memory as if it were the top of shallow water and then let it become a blur again. "Turn back," a voice said, and the pods trembled as if the wind had found them at last. "Go home. It's safer there. You're not strong enough." The words braided into a chorus now, low and sweet and persuasive, like a lullaby sung from another room. He felt himself sway toward them. He closed his eyes again and took a breath through his beak. slow enough to feel the heat shift in the satchel. The Sunrise Brew was still warm. He placed one wing lightly against the silver cup through the satchel's side and found the heat not just there, but traveling. It met him in the joints of his shoulder and climbed the delicate lengths of bone. It settled in the hollow under his throat where fear had built a nest, met it, and held it there without struggle. Courage and strength, Miss Brindle had said. For the drinker, yes, and sometimes for the bearer. He opened his eyes. The golden bubble had moved closer to the old tree's trunk. It glowed a shade deeper, the way a coal glowed when a bellows found it. "Am I strong enough?" Jojo asked aloud. The sound startled him. He almost never spoke outside conversation, and certainly not to groves or memories. His voice landed in the clearing like a small, brave bird and sat on roots to listen. The bubble's light warned. It wasn't language, not in any way he knew how to understand, but it felt like yes. And not a loud yes that shoved him forward, but a quiet one that would sit beside him if he needed to wait. The whispers pressed in again, as if hoping he hadn't heard. "Turn back." He found that the warmth from the satchel and the steady presence of the bubble made those words softer at the edges, easier to pick up and set down. He stepped past the old tree. The air on the other side was not free of whispering. Forests did not abandon their habits out of politeness. But the words unthreaded themselves into ordinary leaf talk. The harshest murmurs stayed behind. He kept walking, and the pods dimmed behind him one by one. The clearing's brighter center returning to the shade that had probably held it a century before he had arrived. He did not look back again. He did not need to. The trees loosened their ranks little by little. The bubble drifted at his shoulder now rather than far ahead, as if to share the lead with him. The path widened. Sunlight came to ground in little coins. He watched one coin of light slip from a leaf onto the path at exactly the moment his foot found the place, and he couldn't help with a small sound that was almost a laughter. He had followed the bubble all morning. Perhaps the forest could take a turn and follow him. He climbed steadily. The ground rose without drama. Somewhere ahead, water voiced itself. Not much at first, just a rumor in the leaves, then clearer. A quick, sure rushing, like someone speaking sense after too many doubtful words. He felt sweat gather at the base of his neck where the satchel strap crossed, and he shifted it, finding the fit that kept the cup from knocking his ribs. The heat against his side was softer now, not the furnace of first brew, but still living, still offering little pulses of confidence that met his thoughts as they came and matched them step by step. Another cluster of firs closed in on the trail just long enough to break the sunlight into flickers. The bubble brightened to compensate, and Jojo realized that he had matched its pace without thinking. He wasn't chasing it anymore. They were keeping each other company. The thought startled him and then pleased him. He let his shoulders settle down and found that his stride lengthened naturally when he did. The bubble rose slightly and the trail followed, angling toward a ridge where the trees thinned to reveal a promise of sky. More light fell here, so much so that the bubble's glow seemed less like a lantern and more like a companionable ember. Jojo climbed the last stretch slowly, not because he was tired, but because he wanted to feel the change in the air that came with each step. It smelled brighter. That was the only word that fit. Sun on rock, water in motion, a little of mineral tang that always announced a good view. At the top, the trail leveled on a broad shelf of stone. He stepped up and stood, letting the scene arrange itself without rushing him. Ahead, the land opened into low ridges, each one softened by distance. Between them, a silver line threaded, thin at first, then widening, then thin again as it turned and vanished. A river finding the easiest argument through stone. Farther still, the faint suggestion of a path climbed across the spines of the hills, a pale thread etched into darker rock. He did not know its name yet, but he felt one reach toward his mouth all the same. The wind came straight at him here and combed his feathers. He took the satchel off one shoulder and let it rest against his hip rather than his chest for a moment. And in the shift, he felt the cup bump lightly against his side. The heat it gave was gentle. He turned the strap once to make it sit closer and hold the cup upright no matter how he leaned. He had learned this once, on his third week at the cafe, after the day he almost quit by the alley. Learning had felt like a miracle then. Everyone else made it look so easy. Now, it simply felt like practice. "One step at a time," he said softly, and the words surprised him because they didn't feel like a bargain anymore. They felt like something he already knew how to do. He looked at the bubble. It hovered at the edge of the stone shelf as if, too, admired the view before getting on with the work. When he moved, it moved, and for the first time since leaving the arch, Jojo did not have to remind his feet to follow. They did it out of habit. And habit, he realized with something like wonder, could be sculpted by courage. The Sunrise Brew's warmth was not a shove, not a spell that turned him into someone else. It was a hand on his back at the right moment and a quiet yes in his chest when the forest tried to tell him no. He took a final look back, not out of longing, but gratitude. The trees of Whispering Grove held their line under the ridge, dark and dense and unchanged by his having passed. He did not need them to be different for him to be. Then he faced forward and began to walk along the ridge, where the light lay in generous bars across the stone and the water's voice promised a way through whatever waited beyond. The path bent toward the sound, and somewhere ahead a turn in the wind lifted a mist to meet the sun, dressing the air in a faint glitter that the bubble caught and wore like a new skin. Jojo reached out without thinking and let his claw pass through the light it shed. It met him warm, the way a pouch meets you when the lamp is already on and someone inside has heard your step. He kept going.